Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're embarking on a really fascinating exploration. We're looking at leadership and impact, but across wildly different global contexts.
Exactly. Our mission today is to sort of unpack the journeys of two pretty remarkable figures who rose to global prominence.
We'll be drawing out the most compelling insights from the sources you've shared with us. We're talking, of course, about Imran Khan of Pakistan and Barack Obama of the United States.
And it's interesting, you might be surprised by some of the, well, subtle parallels, but also the stark contrasts in their paths.
Yeah, how they moved from very different starting points to positions of, immense power. We're here to give you those nuggets of knowledge, those shortcuts to understanding their legacies, and maybe what lessons they offer about change, resilience, influence.
All that good stuff.
Okay, let's unpack this.
And what's truly fascinating as we dive into these sources is seeing how two, vastly different journeys can still illuminate these universal themes: ambition, challenge, legacy.
Right.
We want to go beyond just biography here to really understand why these stories matter and, what broader implications they hold for leadership and societal change globally.
Okay, so let's begin with Imran Khan, born October 5th, 1952, in Lahore, Pakistan. Came from a privileged family, educated at Oxford University.
Right, a classic background in some ways.
So before politics, it was cricket. That's where his name became, a legendary.
Absolutely. Over 2 decades, one of the greatest all-rounders ever.
And leading Pakistan to these unforgettable victories. But here's where it gets really interesting, I think.
The World Cup.
Yeah, that iconic moment in 1992. He captained Pakistan to its first and only Cricket World Cup win. This wasn't just a sports victory. It transformed him into a national hero overnight.
It gave him this incredible cultural capital, this public trust. That's something most politicians work decades to try and build, if they ever do.
Exactly. That pre-existing platform, that's such a crucial element when he then makes that leap into politics, which is, let's face it, a much more skeptical world.
Totally. And it raises that important question for us. What did drive someone at the absolute pinnacle of one field, global sporting fame, to start something so difficult and new? Especially with all that skepticism.
Yeah.
Our sources point out that in '96, when he launched Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf, PTI, the Movement for Justice, a lot of people just dismissed him. Oh, he's just a cricketer trying politics.
Right. Seen as a bit of a novelty, maybe?
Probably. But that national adoration, that hero status, it still gave him a unique leverage point, a way in.
And despite that initial dismissal, Imran had a very clear message, didn't he? And one that was incredibly resonant. He declared, we want justice, we want accountability, we want a corruption-free Pakistan. Simple, powerful.
Very direct. But it was a long, arduous struggle. The sources are clear on that. Years of lost elections. PTI stayed pretty small for a long time.
But he didn't give up. That's the key thing here, the persistence. He kept building support, slowly but surely, especially among young people and the growing middle class.
Yeah, people who were getting really fed up with what they saw as the old, entrenched political elite. They were looking for something different.
And then, after, 2 decades of this relentless effort, in 2018, Imran Khan finally reaches the top, becomes Prime Minister of Pakistan.
And his victory was seen by many as this sort of rebirth of hope for the country.
He promised a lot. Strong economy, a welfare state, cracking down hard on corruption, education for all, a different approach to international diplomacy, more dignity, he said.
Right. And our sources really emphasize his leadership model, how he framed it around transparency, national dignity, and Islamic values as well.
But that vision, it pretty quickly ran into the complex realities of actually governing Pakistan.
Oh, absolutely. The sources consistently highlight the huge challenges he faced almost immediately. Pakistan saw this unprecedented surge in inflation.
Which hits ordinary people hard.
Exactly, leading to widespread public discontent. There was significant political unrest, too, and criticism about, a perceived tightening grip on press freedoms.
So a tough balancing act.
Definitely. And while his government struggled undeniably to deliver on some of those big promises, it's also important to acknowledge, as the sources do, that they did launch major social safety net programs, like ASIS, aimed specifically at helping the poor.
Right. Then came 2022. He's ousted from power in a no-confidence vote.
An event that triggered massive protests across the country. People took to the streets.
And he certainly didn't go quietly. He kept rallying millions, often claiming foreign interference or an elite conspiracy was behind his removal.
That narrative really took hold among his supporters.
Then things got even more turbulent. 2023, 2024, he's facing arrest, multiple court trials, and ultimately gets barred from participating in elections.
Which led to significant political chaos in Pakistan, a really volatile period.
And yet here's the paradox, right? Despite all that adversity, the ousting, the arrests, the legal battles, his support, in many segments, actually seemed to grow stronger.
It's striking, isn't it? Many started seeing him as this symbol of resistance against the old system, a man who just wouldn't be silenced.
Yeah.
If you zoom out, connect this to the bigger picture, it really speaks to a powerful connection he forged with a part of the population that values defiance. That readiness to rally behind someone seen as fighting the establishment, almost regardless of the practical outcomes of their time in power.
So Imran Khan's legacy, it's definitely a complex mix. Triumph, controversy, charisma, it's all in there.
For sure. To some, as our sources show, he's still a hero who dared to fight a corrupt system. To others, he's more of a populist who, despite maybe good intentions, couldn't deliver the deep reforms he promised.
But what seems absolutely clear from all the materials is that he's one of Pakistan's most influential and, polarizing figures.
No doubt. He profoundly changed the political landscape, gave a voice to the youth, the disaffected.
And he showed a kind of leadership that maybe stemmed less from traditional political maneuvering and more from sheer belief, bravery, and just grinding persistence against some pretty formidable odds.
A really unique trajectory.
Okay, so from a leader who leveraged national athletic fame into political power, let's pivot. Let's turn to someone who built his influence through a very different path. More grassroots, community organizing, intellectual rigor. Barack Obama.
Right, a different starting point entirely.
Born August 4th, 1961, Honolulu, Hawaii. His background was, distinct. Father from Kenya, mother from Kansas.
And they separated when he was young, raised primarily by his mother and grandparents.
So right from the beginning, Obama had to navigate these complex questions of race, identity, belonging. Growing up biracial in 1960s America, that's not straightforward.
Not at all. And you have to ask, how did navigating that early life, that really unique background, how did that shape the leader he eventually became?
Yeah, what does this all mean for his journey?
Well, what's fascinating in our sources is seeing how those early formative experiences outside the usual political structures really shaped his later approach.
You mean like the community organizing?
Exactly. His academic path is impressive. Occidental, Columbia, then Harvard Law, where he was the first black president of the Harvard Law Review. Huge achievement.
Yeah.
But before all that, in his 20s, he was a community organizer in Chicago, working on the ground, helping poor neighborhoods fight for better housing, better jobs.
Right.
And the sources really emphasize that it was there, in that hands-on work, that Obama developed this core belief. Change doesn't just come from the top down. It has to be built from the ground up.
That grassroots perspective seems key. His political ascent then really takes off in 2004. That speech at the Democratic National Convention.
Oh yeah, the keynote, unforgettable.
It was so powerful, so unifying. That line, there's not a liberal America and a conservative America, there's the United States of America.
That just electrified people.
It didn't just make him a national star overnight. It positioned him as this voice of unity in what felt like a really divided country.
It really did. And fast forward to 2008, he runs for president. The message, yes, we can. Simple, powerful, optimistic.
Captured the hearts of millions, as they say. And then January 20th, 2009, history is made. Barack Obama becomes the 44th U.S. president.
And the first African-American to hold that office. A monumental moment.
But he stepped into the Oval Office during, just about the worst possible time economically, the Great Recession.
Yeah, the sources paint a really clear picture of the immense challenges. Banks were collapsing, jobs vanishing at an alarming rate.
And wars still ongoing in Iraq and Afghanistan.
Right. He faced this immediate, daunting set of crises right from day one. A true trial by fire.
And yet, despite those massive headwinds, his list of major accomplishments is pretty significant.
It really is. Sources consistently point to the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare, as a huge legislative achievement.
Fundamentally changed American healthcare, extended coverage to millions, added consumer protections that just weren't there before.
He also ordered the raid that killed Osama bin Laden in 2011, became a vocal supporter of same-sex marriage rights.
Which was a major social shift.
Huge. Expanded environmental protections, was instrumental in the Paris Climate Agreement, and of course the Nobel Peace Prize back in 2009.
Right, early in his term. Now, no presidency is without challenges or criticism, obviously.
Of course not. And our sources do highlight that Obama faced particularly intense opposition. especially from a deeply divided Congress later in his term.
Yeah, the political gridlock became pretty pronounced.
It did. Yet through all that, he consistently maintained this calm, thoughtful presence. He was widely respected on the global stage.
That temperament, that ability to navigate the turbulence, that became sort of a hallmark of his leadership, didn't it?
Very much so, that no-drama Obama persona.
Then, after serving 2 terms, he hands over power in 2017. And the way he did it, with grace and dignity, that was widely noted too.
Yeah, the peaceful transfer of power is always important, but it felt particularly poignant then, maybe.
And in his post-White House life, he and Michelle Obama are leading the Obama Foundation.
Right, focusing on empowering young leaders around the world. That seems to be a core mission now.
He's also become a best-selling author. Books like A Promised Land offer his own reflections, his philosophy, still very much in the public eye, extending his influence in a different way.
So, his legacy, it's undeniably profound. Our sources, taken together, suggest he didn't just make history by being the first.
Right. It wasn't just about representation, though. That was huge.
Exactly. He made people believe that leadership could be intelligent, compassionate, unifying, even when things felt incredibly divisive.
He offered proof, maybe, that even in the highest office, you could still try to be humble, hopeful, and, well, human.
Yeah. And ultimately, his story serves as this powerful reminder, doesn't it? That where you start in life absolutely doesn't have to dictate where you finish.
It's truly remarkable when you put them side by side. These 2 leaders, Imran Khan and Barack Obama, from such different worlds, different contexts, yet both managed to capture the imagination of their nations and even people beyond their borders. As we look back now, reflecting on both stories, what common threads do you see? How did they build that influence, and where do their leadership styles just starkly differ?
Well, if we connect these 2 narratives to that bigger picture of global leadership, I think both Imran Khan and Barack Obama really demonstrate how unique personal stories can become these incredibly powerful catalysts.
Catalysts for what, though?
For broad social and political movements, even when they're facing, immense headwinds, huge challenges.
Right.
Their stories highlight, I think, the enduring power of having a clear, compelling message. They show the critical importance of just sheer persistence against incredible odds.
We definitely saw that with both.
Yeah. And also how a leader's personal background, where they come from, what they've experienced profoundly shapes not just how the public sees them, but also their actual approach to governing.
And we see the lasting impact, too, of both their triumphs and their controversies. Neither legacy is simple.
Not at all. And it really prompts us, I think, to consider what qualities are truly essential for impactful leadership across such diverse global landscapes. Does that influence come from a sports field, like Khan, or from community organizing, like Obama? The paths can be so different.
We've certainly taken a deep dive today into the very complex lives and legacies of Imran Khan and Barack Obama. Understanding these figures, their challenges, their successes, it really offers invaluable insights into leadership globally and how societal change actually happens.
Absolutely. And this whole exploration, it really prompts, I think, a crucial question for you, the listener, to ponder.
Okay.
In a world that's constantly demanding transformation, constantly undergoing change, how do we best discern, true lasting change from just mere disruption?
Yeah.
And what role do individual leaders, regardless of their starting point or their specific path, really play in shaping that narrative of progress?
That's a great question to leave folks with, something to really think about. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you'll continue to reflect on the complexities of leadership and the many, many diverse paths to making an impact.